Morning and welcome to the show.
Great Thursday morning to you, our very esteemed audience. Thanks for joining us this morning. I am Uyai Anyaka.
And good morning, Rai.
Uyai.
Let's start our story this way. We're going all the way to Zamfara State, where I know that there's been a lot of issues when it comes to insecurity in that particular northern state. And the Zamfara State Governor, Bello Matawali, has signed into law a bill prescribing death sentences for bandits, kidnappers, cattle rustlers, cultists, and other criminals as part of his administration's efforts to end insecurity in the state. Now, the governor has also banned all political activities, including gatherings and rallies in the state, pending the official commencement of electioneering as encapsulated in the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC. And aside from that, too, he has also said there is going to be a death penalty for criminals as contained in the 2022 Prohibition and Punishment for Banditry, Cattle Rustling, cultism, kidnapping, and other incidental offenses, a law he personally signed on June 28, 2022. Now, a lot of people would say that maybe that's too much of a sentence or that's too much of a penalty, but I don't seem to blame the governor of Zamfara State, Bello Matawali, for giving that orders. Of course, we've seen so many terrorist attacks come through for that particular state, and right now, and I think that every state and every government at different levels are trying as much as possible to see how they can sort out their insecurity issues, since nothing seems to be coming from the end of the federal government. So we find that different states now are just looking for a way to see how they can, save the lives of their citizens in their particular state. Let's not also forget that some months ago, the same governor of Zamfara State, in the person of Bello Matawali, had said that indigents of Zamfara State should begin to bear arms, to protect themselves as a means of staying safe from bandits and kidnappers and all of that. But look at him today, saying that, look, so since the government has not approved that, because I know that there are series of, steps and procedures an individual can take, to actually acquire license to own a gun. And then aside from that too, I'm sure a lot of people looked at that act or that demand as counterproductive, and that was why they said, look, it cannot happen, because I know that there was a lot of reactions towards that. But him saying that, look, for every, even if you are baiting crime in Zamfara state right now, you stand a chance of getting a death penalty.
Yes, Governor Matawale has been in the news, in recent times for some of the very straight-jacketed approaches he's been bringing towards handling insecurity in Zamfara State, and to a very large extent attempting to stretch it to the neighboring north west state. And of course, in recent times, we've seen like him giving assent to this particular bill. I think going through it, the fact that anyone who's an accomplice at any level is going to, get indicted by the law. Of course, just like Danny said, the rule the demand, the request from by his government to the federal government to allow, the northerners to bear up arms to protect themselves. Of course, his explanation, and then one of the things he really explained is the fact that his government since its inception has really been, they've been doing the homework that has brought them to this point. It's not like, because at some point one would think, okay, why are you doing this just at the verge of, finishing your tenure in office?
Yeah.
But then he rightly explained that they have been on this course for quite a while, putting together strategies and everything, and that's why they're coming up with some of these decisions at this time to curb insecurity. And of course, the members of the council, the Security Council, have also attested to the fact that in recent times they have experienced some form of respite with regards to insecurity in the area, because of some of these measures that have been put in place. When you even talk about paying particular attention to informants, because these are, some of the ways things actually go wrong, trying to um, trying to, make sure that people that are informing the bandits, the terrorists, and we've even seen the IGP talk about sabotage in the
Yeah.
security system,
Yeah.
and which is one of the ways that insecurity and terrorism is thriving. I like the fact that, these punitive measures spread across every class of persons. You
Mm-hmm.
look at the Owo church massacre, where Governor Akeredolu came out and said the particular house, the owner of the house who hosted those bandits in Owo has been arrested also.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're aiding and abetting, you are allowing these things to take place in these localities. I think it's a very forward-thinking approach by Governor Matawale. We've seen a lot of approaches in recent days by his government to the rates insecurity. We even see that in line with this also, he has also banned
Yeah.
motorcycles. Yes, and even ordered shoot on sites, because he says by 9 p.m. in certain areas which are more prone to insecurity, if you see a motorcyclist still operating at that time, that's the person willfully going against the order that has been set. And it's a shoot on sight instruction that has been given. If people know that these laws will be taken seriously, it will also it will stem the um, the
The
amount of,
spate of
yes, the spate
insecurity.
of insecurity in these areas. And I believe Governor Matawale is on track, and he's really doing highly commendable. This is something we should believe, that governors of the northeast and the northwest should come together and have like a coalition where they decide, the ways they want to be able to move their states forward in the face of the current realities of insecurity, like you rightly said, not waiting for the things that the federal government is going to do for them.
Definitely. Of course, we saw pictures of Governor Matawale. And on a lighter note, he says that this is him, that's the picture there, him being ready, to show the people of Zamfara State that it's not business as usual, that he's serious, very serious on this particular issue. And like you rightly said, there is also a ban on motorcycles, and from the hours of 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the mornings, nobody should be seen on motorbikes. We know over time that the issue of insecurity has actually been carried out by people in Zamfara State or northern Nigeria, and they normally go in bikes. They normally use bikes to perpetrate this security issues, and that is why Governor Matawale of Zamfara State is saying that, look, we don't even want to see bikes. Motorcycles have been banned from, I think he said that eight communities in Guswa town. We do not want to see motorcycles. And, some people would say that, would ask the question, will these measures actually work to curb insecurity or to even stem the tide in northern Nigeria, and particularly in Zamfara State? That's the thought of a lot of people. Now, we have seen measures over time, to try to like curb these insecurity issues. Even when the federal government says that we are not folding our hands, we're doing everything possible to make sure that, Nigerians are safe. But we see these things, we hear these talks, and at the end of the day, you're not even finished, you're not even done talking. Something else is happening at the other side. So the question is, would we see a productive approach to this particular approach by Governor Matawale? Will we see it yield effort? It's not just saying that, look, shoot at sight. He could be giving that command to his security apparatus in Zamfara State, and the security apparatus in Zamfara State could be getting a higher order from a higher authority not to do that. Let's not also forget that, at some point you also asked for arms, citizens in Zamfara State to carry arms, and that was not agreed upon, at any time. So what is it, do we see this what do you call it now, this security policy by the governor of Zamfara State, do we see it yield any form of result? I think that's what a lot of Nigerians want to hear. We want to see that at the end of the day, that the people of Zamfara State can actually have some kind of respite in terms of security issues. And then again, the governor saying that, look, directing security personnel to shoot at sight or to shoot on sight anyone found violating the new order. I think that is a little bit too extreme. I don't know, but I think it's a little bit too extreme to say, look, shoot on sight. But then again, I think that's just another way of the governor trying to say that, look, we are not doing business as usual. If you know that you're a cultist, if you know that you're a bandit, if you know that you're a castle rustler, if you know that you're even into cultism in Zamfara state, then you have to have a retrace, you have to do a retract of your activities in Zamfara state. More like Zamfara state is now too hot a bed for insecurity to thrive in. So if this works for the people of Zamfara state, then I think that other states in northern Nigeria or other governors in northern Nigeria should begin to imbibe or imbibe these steps or these practices by Governor Bello Matawale in trying to curb insecurity in the country. And it should just go beyond even the northern states and down to even other states in south and southeast, where we see a lot of these things happen, to try to see how we can calm the situation. And of course, we just hope that, by all of this, the issue of banditry will be over for the people of Nigeria as well. And I would also say that if a governor can actually do this, become very stern in terms of insecurity in the country, then we expect more from the federal government.
Yes, of course, we'd expect more from the federal government. And it goes without saying that if, like we always say, if we begin to take responsibilities at every level where we are at the helms of affairs, then we are really going to see, things change for the better. It might not give us the 100%. I know you were saying something about how do we think that these steps taken by Governor Bello Matawale
will yield results, because
results.
that's what everybody wants, results.
Yes,
and
will
not
yield
just
results. But
talks.
I think it's even a step in the right direction. Let's even try out these measures and see the kinds of results that it gives. You must not also forget that he also gave access to house search, to be sure that we do not have any form of indiscrepancies hiding out in anybody's house, accomplices. So I think he's really sitting down to have a really hard thought about, how to handle insecurity, because in some homes you'll find out that maybe they have arms. You would have to explain how you got those things and all of those. So I think he's really doing a lot of good with regards to handling insecurity, and it must be given to Governor Ben.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to say it, he deserves some accolades, because more like I'm putting myself in the shoes of the ordinary citizens.
And the citizens also must be able, to work hand in hand with these what would you call them now?
Security
Yes,
apparatus.
and these suggestions, these orders that he has brought to bear, they need to be able to work hand in hand. Because if he's giving these laws and giving access to these things, and the people do not think that these are, strong ways to go by, if they work against him, then they will not even achieve anything in the first place for us to even be able to say whether or not these steps were good in the first place.
Definitely. Anyways, we go now to our next story, and talking about obeying rules and regulations. There was mild drama along the road leading to Lagos Island some few days ago when a bus driver took to his heels and abandoned his vehicle after he was stopped by security men attached to the convoy of the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The bus driver was driving against traffic when he ran into the convoy of the governor. For fear of being arrested, he fled, leaving his bus behind. We'll just take audio to this, and then we'll come back to the conversation.
Don't my job for me. Don't my job for me.
One could actually say that Governor Sanwo-Olu's convoy have found a new job addition to what they do, because in recent times, of course, they've been the ones in the news, always nabbing people for being on the wrong lane, doing the wrong stuff. And
So it goes to say that every road user in Lagos State now will be more conscious.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be a case of, oh, it's the governor's convoy that it's passing, there's no thought to it. It becomes an added use to check disorderliness when it comes to commuters and road users,
Yeah.
vehicle owners. And I think the point is made with this particular regard. Why are you driving on the wrong lane? So you know that if you're caught, it's going to be,
Yeah.
something. And then to think that it is the governor's convoy that is, one way or the other affecting this change, it's good to see, because we know that I think 2-3 weeks ago, Governor Sanwo-Olu's convoy actually used, a commuter also for an example.
Yeah.
So I think the statement is well made, and we see the fact that Governor Sanwo-Olu has come to effect a lot of changes when it comes to how the Lagos roads are being used.
Yeah.
Transportation and commuting in Lagos State has been something that is very, very important to Governor Sanwo-Olu. So he seems to have an extra eye on the roads. How are they being used? What areas have the level of traffic been cut down? Because sometimes these are the kinds of things that generate traffic on the Lagos road. Someone is doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, using the wrong lane.
Yeah.
So I think the point is clearly made with
Definitely.
this,
And of course, let's not
statement.
also forget that Lagos is a very busy community, more like a very busy town, and more like the nerve of enterprising in the country, where you have a lot of businesses, despite the fact that it's just a small state in Nigeria, but it's a very, very busy place. And I know that the Lagos State, traffic rules, offenses, and penalty is very, very stiff. So it's not just about the governor. It's just that maybe once or twice the governor have run into some of those, offenses by commuters or bus drivers. But the truth of the matter is that Lagos State government is very, very hard on traffic rules and regulations. And of course, like you said, it can cause what do you call it now,
Traffic.
gridlock.
Even
It can also
accidents.
cause accidents on the road. And so I just saw, more like the Lagos State new traffic rules, offenses, and penalties. So, for example, Uyai, if you're driving in Lagos and you're driving without a driver's license, your
Yeah.
car will be impounded immediately. If you're driving any vehicle by a person under 18 years old, you're paying 30,000 naira. And if you're driving a fake number plate, you're paying 30,000 naira and 3 years imprisonment. Now, if you're driving with forged vehicle particulars, 6 months imprisonment. So it just goes on and on. And then if you begin to see this kinds of, it's not as if even the drivers in Lagos State are not aware, because I know that an agency like LASMA, they are always on the road making sure that you obey traffic rules and regulations.
Yes.
And you remember it was all over on social media when they caught Oseni now, was that his name? Of course, a journalist as well, when he drove on a BRT lane. Now, BRT lanes are lanes that are just meant for BRT buses. So why would you, even as a journalist at the time, you understand, you feel that a lot of people look up to you as somebody that should be talking against those carrying out such acts, and you as a journalist, you go do that. So that was why it was really blown out of, I think, out of proportion at the time, talking about these things. But I know that the Lagos traffic rules and regulation is very, very strict when it comes to, offenders. So more like the people of Lagos should, adhere to the traffic rules and regs. And it was also funny seeing that video, actually, somebody beating traffic or driving against traffic, and then you come in contact with the convoy of the governor. All you had to do was just take off from you could see him at the far end. Look at him there running away. And I'm just wondering what was going through his mind at the time. But he knows that if the boss himself, catches him, that means there's more trouble. But trust
And I'm
Governor
very sure
Sanwo-Olu.
that car was impounded.
Of course, it has to be
I'm
impounded.
sure the car was impounded. So it doesn't even matter where he's running to. He'd actually have to still come and face them at the end of the day. But I mean, the first reaction to being caught in the act, wow, really.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I think at this point we'll just take a breather, and then go to the news brief, and when we come back from that, of course, we have other very interesting conversations we'll be having for you, and still talking about strikes here and there. I know that the Electricity Employers Association at some point decided they were going to go on a strike, but we'll go to the news brief next, and when we come back, we'll have that conversation.
Bible Church Secondary Commercial School, a community secondary school in Mia community, is one of the long-standing schools in Batenin local government area. Founded in 1972, the institution has churned out successful Nigerians across the South-South region and beyond. Reports say that the institution was one of the best rated in the past, but for decades now, the glory of the school has been buried in the deplorable condition where it is today.
Things are not very fine in this school. I'm struggling left and right with a nail to make sure correct one thing or the other. We are bothering how to repair the principal quarters under renovation at hand. We've been abandoned. Everything here, nothing. Mostly, especially this structure, have you seen that upstairs there, was built by the community via Kwebe Church in 1973. As sovereign in this school, only 7 teachers in question. Other schools are sovereign. The core subjects are sovereign, no teachers here. My humble appeal is that the government should be able to look into all this public school, most of this Mia own.
The indigents say that the state government was aware of the plight of the school and had promised to reposition the citadel of learning.
Government, government, Secretary General, delegates.
This was the Lagos Nigerian for Spectrum TV to report for the last 6 seconds.
Good morning. This is your morning news brief on Spectrum, live from Uyo. I am Mary Joseph. We begin with President Muhammad Buhari as he has approved the establishment of 3 additional orthopedic hospitals in Edo, Plateau, and Taraba states. Health Minister Osaige Haniri announced this at the inauguration of the Primary Healthcare Leadership Challenge at the State House. Away from that, members of the Nigeria's Governors Forum have pledged to allocate more of their state resources to primary health care through efficient budgeting aligned to annual operational plans. The forum's chairman, Governor Kayode Fayemi, who stated this at the group's meeting in Abuja, said the governors also promised the prompt release of the approved budget to their state's primary healthcare boards and facilities. In another development, former military president General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, IBB, is asking Nigerians to be patient with each other and continue to pray for the peace and progress of the nation. He also urged journalists to ignore politicians and others who preach hate and disunity as election campaigns toward the 2023 elections become more intense. In education, President of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, has advised Nigerian students not to vote for politicians with children studying in institutions outside the country. Osodeke was giving recommendations for the challenges in the country's educational sector during the Twitter webinar space tagged ASU Strike Revitalization Fund and the Way Forward. Let's move now to the foreign scene where NATO is seeking urgent access to inspect the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine, which is under Russian military control. Addressing reporters in Brussels, NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said Russia's seizure of the plant posed serious threats to the safety and security of the facility and raised risk of a nuclear accident or incident. And finally, in sports, LeBron James has agreed to terms on a 2-year NBA contract extension with the Los Angeles Lakers, worth $97.1 billion. According to reports, the deal includes a player option for the 2024-2025 season in which James could see his 17-year-old son, Bronny, become an NBA rookie. We'll have details of these stories and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine where we have Janice and we are on standby. Have a wonderful morning.
As of government, Secretary General, delegates.
This was the Lagos Nigerian for Spectrum TV to report for the last 6 seconds.
The people of Ikotokobo are mostly farmers. They major in the farming of crops such as okra, pepper, palm oil processing, as well as fishing. The road, according to the indigents, has remained inaccessible for years. Reports say that the road was later awarded to Hense Construction in 2019. The indigents stress that the condition of the road has made the movement of farm produce to the markets very challenging. They also complain that their products are wasted during rainy seasons because they do not have access to channel them to the market.
Franyin ne frefen franyin akon okusang ukwerem isaki bami egbe wo mo iro di ku ukwerem egbe tere ki wuru sang e kan ni zonyo bet nta ti go yora mi ana mo iro di edi ni wana menyin frenem so mbok imitunu yo igbe governor nyin ibo mbok ya mo sunu nwa mi no nyin kusang ro franyin eti usang na mko uru anyin amadi ku iyak ini esu to yak afogbe yem arukete berevero in yinine asinyam because of usang.
Akpan bor usang me. Usang amia ba freke sem kwanyina tak. Usang iba. Iko fong iba isa kami kayam kpomi. Yen tak mban bat. Tunwang baro ma ko won te po usang ba. Kusang nyini yemi a link usang asanga ke kai pe koronkun. Ake link igwere junction. Ikpe aruchuku road. Nyini mini junction do. But tungron din di voice di panja mban bat asina fonge baiba machine wata enango kwa wata awa kokot mbok ya government it is upon yin enam bombing onion.
They, however, called on the state government to revisit the area and help them have access to good roads.
Many thanks for still being there. It's Rise and Shine, your early morning starters. And of course, we just came off the news brief desk with Mary Joseph also telling us about things happening in Nigeria and outside the country as well. Anyways, if you're just joining us, this is the show Rise and Shine, and you can be a part of it by going to our socials on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and be a part of the conversation. Let's know your thoughts, let's know your opinion about all that we have been talking about. Of course, we started off our conversation this morning with the stories making the rounds in Zamfara state, where the governor of Zamfara, Bello Matawali, has actually said that he's not leaving any stone unturned to solve the insecurity issues in that particular state. And then we went away from that and saw a video trending about a particular driver that took to his heels when he drove against traffic and came in contact with the convoy of the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. And of course, I know that the rest is history because he's going to be paying for his offenses. Anyway, and let's have a conversation now about the power sector. We saw yesterday that there was total blackouts in places around the country, and especially the Federal Capital Territory, where the National Union of Electricity Workers had announced that they were going to go on strike on Tuesday during a protest at the transmission company of Nigeria's headquarters in Abuja. And then we also had a video where we saw them switching off the TCN, station in Abuja. So we'll just take that video and then we'll come back to the conversation.
That's it. Because today is the main day Abuja no light now.
So as we shut down here now, the whole of Abuja, Akwanga.
Because most of the lights are still out, so we can't come to us studio now. We are watching. If you can come to the CCN, just in Delta.
So where is the station service coming from?
That's what I'm wondering.
Station service.
Okay.
It's Soweto! We Africa! It's Soweto!
That's it.
Oh, yeah, not for. Because today is the main day.
There's a strong issues happening. Of course, in the nation, it could spiral in any wrong direction. But it's good to know that in the shortest possible time, that industrial action was actually called off. Of course, we would expect that some stakeholders in the industry had come together
to have some form of negotiation, because we see that the AEDC, of course, the power circulating body in the FCT actually just said, okay, we do not know what is happening. And of course, the shutdown actually started off as a response to the directive of the union's leadership. So a few weeks ago, the conversation was actually out there that they were considering, a strike action in the power sector. And one would think we already have a failing power sector, and if you now add a strike action to the fact that the power sector seems to be in comatose at the moment. But of course, top on the front burner of these kinds of actions are the fact that workers in these sectors are asking for better welfare for staff members. And sometimes you would just imagine, like, you would just think, when every sector is literally dragging on the federal government to come and respond to their different welfare needs. Of course, one would first of all think, where did the federal government get it wrong? That across all sectors, there is no sector that can say, okay, we are actually well taken care of, by the federal government. And if we see across board, last week we talked about medical doctors wanting to go on strike. Now you're looking at the power sector. University lecturers are currently on strike, and everybody wants to bend it in at the same time. A few weeks ago, we saw Zainab Ahmed, who is in charge of the national budget and planning, come out to say the nation is broke. So when you're asking a broke nation and a broke leadership to all respond to welfare needs, which places a demand on finances and money, one would think where we are going to, as a nation.
Yeah, definitely. Anyways, there was a meeting yesterday that culminated into the electricity union calling off the strike that should have lasted for 2 weeks. And of course, reports say that the decision of the union followed a meeting with the Minister of Labour, which is Dr. Chris Ngige, and Minister of Power, Mr. Abubakar Liu, and Minister of State of Power, Mr. Godi Jediagba, and of course the representatives of the head of service as well. But you know that when you say things like this, it just we begin to wonder, where exactly are we going to as a country? And then you saying that, I know that more like the demands of the electricity body is not something that is just beginning. These are something that has come from over time, and the federal government is not yielding or giving one excuse or the other. And then when we see that the federal government has gone into a serious meeting with these people and are saying that look, just call off the strike, and more like people would just feel that, okay, maybe because the blackout actually started in Abuja, where is more like the federal capital territory, and you have these big wigs staying in those areas, so they can't even stand running diesel that is even at 1,000 naira per liter right now, or even more. But when you say that call off the strike, we will talk negotiations, we will negotiate. How often does the government negotiate? How often do they also keep their parts, in terms of these negotiations? Let's bring it back to the ASU story. We've had over time, go back to classrooms, we will negotiate. And before you know it, there are no negotiations. And at the end of the day, you know that we are going to also get another strike action or a protest or something at the end of the day. So I think that's more than just saying, look, call off strikes. Let the federal government begin to see ways at which they can begin to meet these demands. We are not even saying that. For me, I don't even think that meeting the demands like totally in totality is what is attainable. No. We can say that you start meeting those demands gradually so that the burden of meeting the demands is not even too much on you as a federal government. Let's also not forget, just like you said, the government has come out to say that we do not have money, that the nation is broke. Fine. Even if the nation is broke, we have seen where monies are being embezzled. So I think that is even the problem and the cry of a lot of people. And that is why you see that most unions these days don't even want to negotiate anymore. They are making serious demands. They are making demands for their welfare. They are making demands for infrastructures and the likes. So nobody even wants to listen to what the federal government has to say again, because there is no form of transparency at all in governance. You're saying that, okay, let's call off the strike, go back to work. But we are hearing at the other side that, somebody cannot even give account of how a particular project was implemented and prosecuted, and the documents for that project has been eaten up by termites. So when you hear things like this, how would you now believe that the federal government is telling the truth when they say that there's no money? And something very, very laughable that I saw yesterday in the agricultural sector, where they said the Minister of Agriculture said that so much
18 billion naira was used
to clear bushes. How can you use 18 billion naira? I know that there was more like a revert, on that story. They came up and said no, that they are revoking it, that the story was not true, that they used 2.8 billion naira to clear bushes.
Why is it even inside the billions?
Billion naira to clear bushes.
What kind of bush?
And then when Power Holding is saying that they want to go on strike, or electricity employers, you say no, let the strike be called off. Or ASU is one corner saying that we will not call off strike until government meets our needs, and you're saying that we cannot meet up with the trillion of naira that ASU is demanding.
But Janice, let's even look at the fact that when we talk about the fact that government is failing, government is actually the people sitting at the helms of affairs. Because if you look at the agriculture story you just brought up, it's someone who is in charge of that ministry, who
a particular amount of money has been voted for a particular thing in the ministry. And you see
people come together collectively in a ministry, in a parastatal, in an MDA to siphon the money that was voted for something. Why do Nigerians sitting in public offices have this kind of wickedness in their system?
I think that beyond having this kind of wickedness in the system, is the government even asking for accountability? Now, the House of Representatives of the, or let's say the National Assembly now, has said that, look, let us probe these things. At the end of the day, what do you call it? Is judgment given or punitive measures taken against this, parastatals or MDAs? So let's look beyond saying that people are wicked. At the end of the day, the government is not doing anything about it. Now you're saying that, okay, come and tell us how you spent this money. Before you know it, these issues will be swept under the carpet, and we will not hear anything about it again. So why won't people keep doing these things? The point is it will continue because there are no measures taken against it, no legal action being taken against it. We've heard that, okay, some people have been taken over by the, EFCC for embezzlement or for this or for that. But how often do we see that? At some point, they said it's even witch hunting, that the government prosecute those that are not, in favor of the government.
And then sometimes, even if these people are picked up, the case just seems to go on forever. So you do not hear a clear-cut judgment. It still brings us back to the conversations of monies that have been regained from these loots. When we ask 78 billion here, 80 billion there, 90, they call some amount of money in this nation, and you're thinking, what is happening?
Is this the nation that doesn't have money?
If you put together every billion in the hundreds, of billions. We are running into a loss of trillions of naira.
Of course, yes.
But yet, these monies are being embezzled by individuals that cannot spend the entirety of that money in their entire lifetime.
Money that is looted and comes back to the country. What do you think? It is also re-looted.
Because, and then sometimes you will have some of these ministers come to tell you that, oh, these monies were reinvested into certain infrastructure. Accountability is a serious issue in Nigeria, that we need people at the helms of affairs to drive conversations that will cause us to experience a change. Because if you say that monies that were recovered from loots have been ingested into the economy, we need to know that when you're talking about a Sani Abacha loot which ran into so amount of billions,
now not even in naira, but in
dollars,
in foreign currency,
and you say that this amount of money was recovered, we need to know that this is the amount of money that was recovered. When you re-ingested it, we re-ingested it into agriculture to the tune of this. We ingested it to the economy in manufacturing to the tune of this. And these are the trackers and modalities that we have put in place to make sure that this money is recycling. But you just come out and say it was. The word infrastructure is ambiguous. It's not giving an explanation to any particular sector. The rate at which the people in leadership in this nation think that Nigerians do not think is appalling.
It is.
And at the end of the day, like we've currently been seeing, Nigerians need to take the responsibility of demanding accountability. And if the federal government is not going to set those things in place, Nigerians need to, because private organizations in this country, they are doing well and thriving because they have a system. So we need to be able to come together as a people, put in systems and prefer them as solutions.
I think that the argument to that regard will be that the bureaucratic bottlenecks would actually stifle those kinds of efforts. So at the end of the day, that top-bottom approach of taking orders, will just stifle everything. So you don't have to see that form of transparency.
We need to push against the tide,
coming forth.
If we keep embracing that, explanation of bureaucracy, we'll never get to the place we need to get to as a nation.
Exactly.
Nigeria will remain a developing nation with over how many billions of people living under the poverty line, with all the resources that Nigeria is blessed with.
Definitely. Anyways, we just thank God that the power sector have actually called off that particular strike, and let's see where it goes, where the story goes, and the developing stories from that end. The federal government has said call off strike. We'll see what we can do. We just hope that in the near few months, let me put it like that, in the near few months, that we won't be here again talking about the story of electricity employers going on a strike. I think at this point we'll just take a breather, and of course when we come back, we'll be coming back with a guest that will be talking about youth involvement in politics, because there seems to be, like we would say, a lot of people are saying that there's some kind of reawakening, a political revolution, and we are seeing a lot of young people want to come into the political space to be part of governance, but beyond going for voting and exercising franchise, which is our constitutional right. How many of those young people have actually, sought for political positions? Big questions.
And then we are looking at the not too young to roll bill.
Not too young to run bill. Yeah. And yet politics in Nigeria is so expensive that you're beginning to wonder where a young person will be having money to pay. I know that to go for presidency under APC, it was 100 million naira that they used for farm, and it just
we even have some co-fans telling the Labour Party flag bearer Peter Obi that he needs to have on ground 50
billion naira to be able to
running that race to a considerable end.
So
these are issues,
definitely big issues that we will be looking at today. Does it go beyond just a young person going to the polling booth to what do you call it, cast your votes? Let's see. We'll take a breather now, and we'll be back very, very shortly.
A knowledge of global businesses, economic activities, a new wave of the stock market, forex market, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs creates new dynamics towards emerging market millionaires and billionaires. From the dot-com era to the oil booms, the fundamental news drives the market. This is Business 360, taking you to the business around the globe. Join us from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. weekdays, exclusive on Spectrum Television. Business 360, your prism to world businesses.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by Muslim, our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
All right, welcome back. It's still Rise and Shine, your early morning status. And we told you that when we come back from that break, we'll be coming back with our guests. And today, our focus this morning is the Nigerian youth and the Nigerian politics. And we gave like a background to that particular conversation before we went on break. And we're looking at how involved the Nigerian youth in terms of governance, not just going to the polling units or the polling booths to cast their votes, but how involved are they in the process of governance. Joining us on this show this morning is a media and PR practitioner. I have to take my time to read this out. A communication strategist, speaks in conferences and seminars, a broadcast and an event compare, a life coach, a motivational speaker, a public analyst, a Rotarian, and of course, presently, on the grounds that he is here this morning with us, is that he is serving as the State Publicity Secretary of the Young Progressives Party in Akwa Ibom State. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Akan Emma. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my privilege to be here.
Okay.
Good morning. Good to have you. So, being the leader of the youth on the Young Progressives Party, remember we termed the Young Progressives Party as the third force rising in Akwa Ibom State's political what's the word? Architecture space. Yeah, and how does that even feel? Because I know it's a new wave that is rising. So what's the feeling like being in that shoe?
Well, I am not the leader of the Young Progressive Party. I am just the spokesperson. No, the State Publicity Secretary, the spokesperson for the party. And like you've said, the Young Progressive Party is a third force. Beyond being a party, it is a movement funded or founded on the social democratic ideology of equity, fairness, justice, and a movement that believes in rewarding people for their services. That's why our mantra is service to the people.
Okay, let's move away from your party now. Let's talk about young people involvement in politics. Now, there seems to be this mantra of a revolution in Nigeria. We really do not know where this is stemming from. I know that there are different issues, that has come up, more like so much insecurity in the country, more like so much poverty. But away from that, what do you think is responsible for this revolution? amongst young people?
Yeah, the young people have been treated with despair. The young people have been abandoned. They use the young people and they abandon them. The young people have been humiliated. For instance, students have been at home for almost 6 months now. The young people will commit so much energy in ensuring the emergence of leadership in the country, and then they will not be rewarded for their services. You know, so all of this have built up the anger and the revolution that you're seeing now, and they intend to speak through their votes and their voters card. That's why if you look at the data that INEC has released, you will realize that the demographics where the young people are have been the ones that have continually been on the rise, you know. So the young people, they want to speak this time around. They want a government that will be conscious about them, a government that will understand them, the government that will allow them to be expressive, a government that will be there for them. Because prior to now, what you see is a situation where the young people are used, they are abandoned. No one cares for them.
But let me ask this question also, you know, leaning on what you have just said, because I saw that, you know, release, that report from INEC, where the demographic over, you know, the most people that have their voters card or have registered are young people. But let's not also forget that, you know, it's not just about the 2023 elections. This has always been the trend before now. But do you think that it will go beyond, you know, just having the voters card and going to vote? Do you think that it will go beyond that?
Yeah, I think definitely it will go beyond that. Now, if you take statistics of world leadership, you realize that countries like France, Canada, and the rest, they're having amazing young leaders at a rather very early age. The ages where Gowon was a leader then. So what is happening today? We have witnessed a situation in this country where we have recycled men coming into governance. And so when they come into governance, all they do is that their concentration is on their generation. I'm not saying it's bad. And so all of this has built up the anger in young people. So that's what we intend to see. That's what we will see. The young people now believe it's time to take their destiny in their hands to determine who and who governs. If last week I listened to the governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, speaking, I think in UK, and he said emphatically that it's time for young people to arise, take their destinies in their hands, and then determine who they elect to govern them at all levels come 2023.
Is it mostly about who they elect to govern them? Let's consider, are we not considering, or shouldn't we tilt more to be being able to put in young people in these places of governance? Because now it seems the revolution is more tilted to having a reawakening on the part of the youth, determining who they send into office. What of the political consideration of having young people in these offices?
It's going to be a two-way thing. It's going to be a two-way thing. Both, you know, a drive to ensure that younger people are now more in government, and younger people determine who comes into government. Because the young people will understand those that are there for them, those that they have access to, those who listen to them, those if they have issues or challenges they run to, they have access. Those are the kind of persons young people want. And also the young people also want to be relevant. It's beyond you having, for instance, what is tenement here. Is that a young person, for instance, has a challenge for 20,000, tries to reach out to a leader who is of age. You know, he calls him the day he picks his call or runs into him. He says, come. He goes there. He could go there 5-7 times. Oh, come back. Come back. And at the end of them, may give that young person 2,000. And the transportation the young person has used in going to visit him may have been up to 7,000-10,000. Just that he couldn't be able to put it at, you know,
Okay,
at the
so
bulk.
I like the fact that you talked about the governor of Kaduna State, El Rufai, saying that young people should wake up. Now, let's not also forget that these are the kind of things we hear anytime it's an election season. Now, different, political parties or leaders that want to go into office will come out and say that, oh, young people should stand up, young people should do this, young people should do that. But let's also look at the not too young to run bill. Since it came in as a law in Nigeria or a bill, do you think that the government has been fair to the young people enough to make them switch from just going to vote to even assuming, political positions? Let's not also forget that looking at how expensive politics is in Nigeria, can a young person actually afford, a political position in this country?
That is why you have this revolution, because the young people have understood the fact how our politics is intertwined.
The point exactly I'm trying to make is we agitated for political positions. We agitated to be involved in the governance process. And that is why the not too young to run bill even came into place. Yeah. But since after that, what has changed?
That is what I'm telling you. Thank God for the not too young to run bill. The question is, in our climate, where there is no law governing the expenditures of campaigns and politicking, the young persons cannot fit in. And so they have considered all of this. And they realize that age is on their side for some of these elective positions. So the best thing for them to do is to come together, galvanize. And if you understand one fact, there has never been a time you've seen this kind of passion in young people. And I must also give this to the social media. The social media has also played a very, very vital role in this matter. So everywhere, people have now come to their senses. People have now come to the realization that beyond the money that is usually used to influence them, that they can come together, in most cases, collect that money and still do their bidding, or some say no to that money. Because the moment we continue to allow these persons deceive us with this money, it will spell doom for the next generation after us, and even 2-3 generations. But what is happening today is a realization of the fact that the past, the young people have been mazed in the past. So the future should be that which they look onto, which should be reeled with gold for their emancipation.
In your evaluation in recent times, looking at the revolution that we've seen with the youth, especially like you rightly said, the activism on social media, would you say that the youths are also looking for ways to be actively involved in this politics, just apart from manning conversations that are showing that there is a revolution going on? Are they actively involved? If you go down to party levels, go to wards, go to different political positions, would you say that the youth are becoming actively
yeah, I think the youths are actively becoming involved, but also not all the parties are also making this happen. That's why there are some parties you go and you see a youth leader being 50 years plus. That's why my party becomes the alternative.
Okay, so we are not going to be talking about your party here.
Yes, we're doing a generalization of things. Yes. That's why I'm saying that parties like ours becomes the alternative. It stands out. You can never have a youth leader, for instance, in my party, who would be more than 35. So it's a two-way thing also. Whereas also many of these young people have still not come to the realization of this fact. But many and majority of them have come to the realization. That's why you're seeing this revolution. Who would have believed that in this country there could be an end-SARS revolution? What we saw, the kind of things that happened those years, about 4 or 5 years ago, in the northern countries of this continent of Africa, the Arab Revolution we saw. So that is what is going to happen.
Okay.
Do you think that this revolution is going to have any direct effect on the general elections coming in 2023? There is a lot of conversations going on. There is a lot of change. Like we say, there is a third wave rising in states and even at the federal level. Do you think that the youth are going to be able to make very bold and resounding statements in the coming elections?
They will
Now,
definitely
also looking at the fact that, sometimes it's more like a revolution on Facebook and the social media, will we begin to transfer these energies from just social media to making it very practical?
It will, because now you must also realize the fact that politics is local. So everybody has a village. Everybody has a polling unit. If you
Consider the fact that a lot of young persons do not
go to their village. So they have a polling unit where they stay, where they reside. That's why also you notice that urban areas, polling stations or polling units in the urban areas have greater number of voters. And so wherever they find themselves, they will go there and exercise their vote.
Okay, so while we wrap up this conversation now, I would like you to, as a way forward now, how can government begin to galvanize what we have on ground? We know that the government of the day is facing a lot of challenges, like you rightly said from the beginning of your conversation, even students are at home today, young people are not even happy. But how can we as government now begin to look for a way forward to see that more young people, I know that government at some point said that even the young people are not employable. That I think that's even a conversation for another day. But how can we begin to look forward to how the government can begin to inculcate those young people into governance?
And are we ready to take up that inclusion? Are the youth actually ready?
Let me come from begin with you. If the young persons are ready, I think the young persons are ready. We are a country that we're privileged to have just many young persons that are developed, that have what it takes, and that's why each time some of the young persons go out there in any competition or find themselves in the midst of other people in the world, they do very well. They stand out because we were distinctively created, as Nigerians. And I need you also to know that for me, government needs to sit up. Government needs to sit up. Because if government sits up, government will understand that things have gone very, very wrong. Things have gone very, very wrong. This is part of the anger. No employment for the people. Someone goes to school, comes back, graduates, comes back, stays in their house for 5-7 years without a job. And that person has the basic requirements. And the next thing you find, someone who was not as educated as that person, or someone who is not even educated, given a job. So until government comes to the realization that there is need to be equality, there is need to be justice, there is need to treat people the way. I'm one person that at many times I tell people that are close to me that I am not too convenient or conversant with our paper qualifications. I have them. But sometimes, because of the pressure in a country like ours, that everyone needs a paper to take you to the next level, people will doctor those papers. Doctor in the sense that they pay everything to ensure they have the paper. But when they are faced with the realities of the job or what they studied, they don't know it. But then there are other people that are qualified to do the job.
Okay, we need to wrap up this conversation now. Thank you very much, Akan Emma, Publicity Secretary of the Young Progressives Party in Akwa State. Thank you so much for your time. We also hope that consequently we'll have you join us on the show again for some other conversations. Thank you so much for your time.
It's my privilege to be here.
Definitely. Okay, on that note, we'll take a very short break, and when we come back, of course, we'll be looking at the economy of Nigeria, some of the challenges that has been facing us as a country, and the way forward. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
the knowledge of global businesses, economic activities, a new wave of the stock market, forex market, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs creates new dynamics towards emerging market millionaires and billionaires. From the dot-com era to the oil booms, the fundamental news drives the market. This is Business 360, taking you to the business around the globe. Join us from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. weekdays, exclusive on Spectrum Television. Business 360, your prism to world businesses.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by Muslim, our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
The people of Ikoto are mostly farmers. They major in the farming of crops such as okra, pepper, palm oil construction in 2019. The indigents stress that the condition of the road has made the movement of farm produce to the markets very challenging. They also complain that their products are wasted during rainy seasons because they do not have access to channel them to the market.
I mean, Kede Jacob Ban. Franyin, Freven Franyin, Agon Kusang. Uquerm is a gibami. A bow my ready to querm. A mbok, it's no you, it be a governor onion. Even mbok. Yamois no woman onion. Kusang Franyin 80. Usan am go running. Amadigo iyak. Inesuto yak of a bayem. I rook
it. Some point Sangiba. Iko fungi by a bicycle coming Kayam Pomi, Bakoronkun. Agelink, Iguere, Junction. Ipe Aruchuku Road. Mini Junction do. But Tongrundin, the voice of the Banja, Mbanbat, as in a fungi baiba, Machine water, and Anquaki water, a wakukot, Mbogyak government. It is upon and I'm bombing onion.
They, however, called on the state government to revisit the area and help them have access to good roads.
Kwaibo Church Secondary Commercial School, a community secondary school in Mia community, is one of the long-standing schools in Bateni local government area, founded in 1972. The institution has churned out successful Nigerians, a past, but for decades now.
Things are the structure. Have you seen that office?
To report teachers as to meet the learning
system and promising heaven and earth. you find out that by the time they come in, they cannot do 50% of what they promised.
Because they are coming to see this. If they don't use this, they will not achieve what they want. So it is the normal thing they must use to convince a man that does not have a proper ideology to vote them.
So it's just a mere slogan. It's just a mere slogan to use and have their right into power.
What do you, the people, think about the elections?
The electoral process has been marred by malpractice and all of that.
That's a bad thing in Nigeria. All for election night, you about money.
Definitely, no matter what the reform they are carrying out, they will still be rigging.
It's about the aspirants, the manifesto, the people's view, an in-depth analysis.
That godfatherism is what has eaten deep into our political system. It has become a cankerworm that has left our political system into a corrupt system.
If it is not godfatherism, somebody like me, I will become the counselor. So because I don't have a godfather, it will not work.
Because people feel that they will come and invest, they need to get something back home. So the major aim is not about the people, it's about their family and themselves.
Godfatherism will not help the politics to grow. It won't help democracy to grow.
Vote buying will even be more this time around because these people, most of them have stolen a lot of money and they will use this money to buy votes.
Who gets to represent you in government at all levels?
Well, for me, the new breed aspirants, I would love the new breed aspirants. But for those, there are some of them that will not, I would say, definitely, I wouldn't want them to come back definitely to power.
Join us on Akwa Ibom Decides every Saturday and Sunday by 3 p.m. each day, exclusive to Spectrum Television, as we take on the aspirants set to lead you.
It is my great pleasure to address you all, and I am particularly very pleased to be able to once again address those of you that have been with us from inception, as well as those of you who are new to the Planet Radio and Spectrum Television platforms. As an ardent listener and follower of the TAP Media Group, I am certain you have observed the frequent interruptions in our transmission and sometimes non-operation for some time now. This is as a result of the devastating damage caused by a massive thunder strike on our installations in the Spectrum TV, Planet radio stations, and on our power generating plants. This happened a few months after the completion of the periodic reinforcement of our earthing system. We want to very sincerely and unreservedly tender our apologies for all the inconveniences and the quality infotainment you've missed due to the unfortunate lightning incident. The wise man said, "It is not how many times you fall, but how courageous and determined you are to get up, dust yourself and move on, that matters." So we have left no stone unturned in our effort to reflect on sentiment of him listening truly, only and even more service, all the while raising our profile and prominence in the industry. Esteemed listeners and viewers, recall that Planet Radio came alive when people least expected it. When it did, well-meaning individuals in the state proposed that the vision of establishing the first privately owned and indigenous radio stations was a burden shared by many, but actualized first by TAF and Associate. In the same vein, and as part of our continued effort to get into closer contact with the people through our wider coverage of radio and programming, I announce to you the introduction and commencement of an entirely indigenous language radio station into the TAP Media Group brands, effective Monday, August 1st, 2022. For us at TAP Media Group, the emergence of Tangsio 102.7 FM, as the station is so called, is particularly thrilled and momentous, as it is aimed at catering for the information, education, and entertainment needs of the mass of our indigenous populace that hitherto have not been catered for
with our English language broadcast on Planet Radio. Our objective is to build a profitable, sustainable, and contributing company for the enlightenment and development of our people. And we know that in order to achieve this, the happiness and satisfaction of our teeming listeners and viewers is the priority. Tangsio 102.7 FM will be broadcast exclusively in Ibibio, Anang, Oro, and Efik languages. And in doing this, we will continue to uphold the best standards of professionalism in the conduct of our business, even as we will continue to push for more innovative ways of serving the people better. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to members of the board and the entire staff of TAF Media Group who have been doing their very best in their respective positions, especially to the engineering staff who are devoting their effort to ensuring smooth operations in spite of the challenging times. This for me is profound and indispensable for this new leap. Above all, I gratefully acknowledge the support and sustained patronage of the government of Akwa Ibom states, clients and partners, and once again, the goodwill of our listeners and viewers. We hope and believe that Tangsio 102.7 will be of immense benefit to our people as it will help expand the space for social-political engagement, entertainment, and the advancement of our dear state. Definitely, Tangsio will be a greater envy of our competition. Finally, TAF Media Group sincerely appreciates the good people of Ibiakuran for their unceasing support in ensuring that our assets are secured. May the Almighty God continue to bless TAF Media Group, Ibiakuran people, Akwa Ibom State, and the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Tangsio 102.7 FM. Ekene Dang.
Yeah, it was quite a long break there, but we sincerely do apologize. We were trying to put up one or two things in place to have our second conversation that had to do with the economic of the country Nigeria. Of course, we've seen that the economy of the country has been falling and sliding, and we're trying to see how we can have a robust conversation on that and possibly recommendations on how we can move forward as a country. Let's not also forget that we had news that the inflation in the country has risen to a very tremendous height in the past, and this is more like the worst, when you're looking at the past 17 years. And then we also apologize for not able to bring the people's view. I think we are having a little bit of hitches here and there, in terms of network now, but that's fine. These things do happen, actually.
They do, of course. There's always room for technical hitches, and I mean, the Nigerian battle in the internet is not it's not one that we are not all privy to as Nigerians, but of course we do apologize, and we hope that tomorrow we can give you a more robust conversation, and even people's view will be back on air, and even the conversation with concerning our economy. We do hope to bring that tomorrow with our guest, full package tomorrow. Of course, it's always a delight to dissect and talk about some of these issues, of course, because when we are even talking about the issue of inflation, now it's not even just peculiar to Nigeria. The world over, it's more like a global inflation that is currently going on. But we need to have these conversations as it covers our immediate environment, which is Nigeria, and we see how it's affecting us. And when we have these conversations, we can now know how to navigate around these things. And then when we are talking about inflation, it's the fact that money versus supply as against demand, and then you're looking at the fact that things that used to be very basic things of life have become very expensive. We're looking at the fact that bread used to be 300 naira, but in some states in the country currently, a loaf of bread is actually going for 1,000 naira. I'm even saying some states here in Akwa Ibom, some loaves of bread statutorily now is like 800 naira. So we have people buying bread from between 800 naira a loaf to about 1,500. And I remember when we were young, we used to hear that in Zimbabwe at the time, bread was sold for 1,500, and you'd be thinking, why should a loaf of bread
sell for that amount?
At that amount. And right here we are in Nigeria and in some other parts of the world. So it's really affecting us. So when we talk about inflation, it's the fact that it's affecting basic commodities.
But I think that this conversation should, come up often, because I also know that some governors of Nigeria have actually given like a 33 recommendation. Now, and if you go back and do a research on that, those recommendations, they are laughable things. You hear things like each person should begin to, the government should begin to deduct as much as 100 naira from every recharge card.
From the money that is currently not enough.
And then there's also some deductions that, they are actually demanding that the government does from those that are employed and even the unemployed. And in my head, I'm wondering, where will the unemployed have money? So these recommendations were some of the things that we would have been talking with an economist, Bashiru Shegun Sani, who is the chief economist at Feni Ferry. And we hope that we'll have that conversation tomorrow. Let us dissect it. Is it that these recommendations by governors in Nigeria will actually stem the tide, will actually bring back the economy to a position where we can say that, okay, things are, going fair enough? Let's not also forget that in recent times, we've seen protests that has turned into violent protests in different countries in Africa. We saw what happened in Ghana. We saw what happened in Sri Lanka. We saw what happened in Sierra Leone. And all of those things sparks from the fact that government seems to be insensitive when it comes to the plight of the common person and high cost of living. So let it not get to a situation where people in Nigeria would begin to protest. And we know sometimes how protest looks like. At the end of the day, the protest is infiltrated and it turns very violent and bloody. So let's not wait for that time in Nigeria.
We shouldn't. We need to. I think the first thing is, and then inflation sometimes is mostly as a result of too much money in circulation in a system.
But I think we don't even have too much money in circulation.
We actually do have too much money in
So
circulation.
where are the monies?
No, we actually do
They are
have too much
They are
money in
being used to
circulation.
clear bushes, and termites are eating
Look at
them.
what we're saying. We actually have too much money in circulation. That is why the Central Bank of Nigeria has been introducing some policies attempting to mop up these monies back out of the economy into the savings.
Okay.
Right? So these are some of the issues we are even having. If we can recall, you're trying to recall money back, and you're saying that the common man is your issue.
No, then I think that if we have too much money in circulation, it's circulating around some
Capital intensive,
It's circulating around some clique of people, because there are people that are not seeing these monies. We only hear great figures, big figures, humongous figures.
Of which you're hearing every day.
Of course, yes.
Well, at this point, we just hope that we can find a way. Now, let's talk about the fact that the common man needs to look for a way to balance it out for themselves while we wait for the government to be able to, step in with some policies and things that can help us balance out. But with whatever a person is earning, you need to be able to plan up well. You need to be able to save up well. Like in the Nigerian parlance, we say it's not every day that you must be caught outside. So know when to save up and, just find a way to make your money go round for you, basically.
Definitely.
But at this point, we'll take our tidbits for the day and we'll be wrapping up the show. So we'll start with Did You Know? Use a bowl to put in your phone if you're trying to amplify the sound coming out of your phone. Yeah, I know it's something I've tried a couple of times. It works.
Okay. All right, let's go over now to our health tips. Of course, we cannot say this enough. Living healthy is more like good business, because whatever it is you're hustling, if you're not in good health, all of that is just a waste. So let's do more vegetables. Let's do more of fresh fruits instead of those, carbonated drinks or fruits, juices that have additives and preservatives that could also harm your body system. Let's do more fresh fruits.
Okay, so let's take our recipe for the day.
Yummy, yummy spaghetti jollof there. Of course, if you did not join the show yesterday, this is, for those that are joining us today, you have to see that spaghetti jollof is something that you can use as breakfast, as lunch, as dinner. Just get the right ingredients like we showed you there, and make sure that it's hot and very, very spicy.
Hot and spicy plus very colorful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we take our quote of the day, and that's how we wind up this morning. Good friends help you to find important things when you have lost them. Your smile, your hope, and your courage. Do Zantamata. Good friends help you to find important things when you have lost them. Your smile, your hope, and your courage. Great words there. It's important for us to have people that reintroduce the energies that we are losing out in our life. Yeah,
definitely.
So people that bring in the, we call it the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have people that pump the right vibe into your space at every point in time.
Definitely.
I think that's the absolute size of our show for today, and it's a sheer pleasure to say thank you for being a part of Rise and Shine this morning. We will continue same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Uya Anyekan.
And don't forget to connect with us on all our socials, be a part of the community, and do well to also drop your observations and opinions on all we have talked about this morning. We'll have a date again tomorrow. My name is Janice Covam. Do have a blessed day.